they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. The Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
If you comply, they're going to shoot you. If you try to leave, they're going to shoot you. If you're already on the ground, they're going to unload into you even though you're already dead in broad daylight. They are executing people in the streets.
People are scared. People are really scared, and they're scared for good reason. And I would love to be on your show telling everybody it's going to be okay. Don't worry. This terror will not be coming home to you. But I can't say that because it is the explicit intent of this administration from Trump on down to terrorize blue cities across America. It is unlawful. It is shredding our Constitution.
If Democrats vote against this DHS funding measure, my question for you, Senator, are you prepared to vote against DHS funding if it means partially shutting down the government? Again, coming on the heels of an incredibly long shutdown.
Well, I'm not giving ICE or Border Patrol another dime.
Yes, I voted to defund. I voted against funding for ICE just this past week. I voted against the entire appropriations bill for the Department of Homeland Security because of exactly this stuff going on in our streets. But that's not enough.
They're going to kill us anyway, so I think maybe we should just mob them. I mean, we have to do something. Like, we have to, as bystanders, mob them. Like full American Revolution, like hiding in trees.
Look up guerrilla warfare tactics. Did you know if you take a broom and jam it into the front end of a grill of a car, it breaks the radiator and now the car doesn't run? If you take a spark plug and tap the windshield or tap the side window, when they close it or it gets cold, the glass spiders and breaks out. Spray foam up the tailpipe of a car will make sure that the car never runs again. Cutting up small pieces of hose and roofing nails and pushing the nails through that, throwing them under vehicles will pop the tires of a car. There's a few. Get to it.
Stephen Miller has gone so far as to label the victim today as an alleged domestic terrorist.
The reality is the real domestic terrorists, they're in the White House right now. They're people like Stephen Miller. They're people like Donald Trump. They're the ones who are terrorizing these communities, having nothing to do with public safety.
Stephen Miller is a domestic terrorist. That's who the domestic terrorist is at the top of this government. Stephen Miller, the modern incarnation of the Gestapo right here in America, a racist full and through who is using Donald Trump, this increasingly senile president, for his aims of white domination. That's clearly what's going on here.
This has become part of the disgusting White House cover-up of these killings. They said the same thing about Renee Good. They really think the American people are stupid.
Shoot us in the face! Shoot me in the head! You coward! I'm right here! Kill me!
If we don't have an ICE uniform on, we're not safe. Make sure you have your affairs in order. I'm going to work on getting mine in order because rights don't exist in this country anymore for us citizens.
I think I'm willing to die for this. I think the people are ready. We're attending record-breaking rally after rally across the country, even the world, but we lack a clear plan beyond basically complaining in all its forms.
When are the Dems going to actually January 6th this? Like, all we do is stand on the street and blow whistles and keep getting shot. Like, when are we going to be the ones to ambush them? Like, what in the is going on here, you guys? Like, we have to actually stand up for ourselves, or you're just going to keep getting shot in the streets.
The good people in this country aren't asking for another peaceful protest that fizzles out by Monday. We're not asking for catchy slogans or edgy T-shirts. We're asking for direction. The largest force in this country is standing by, waiting for someone with a platform to say, here's how we organize, here's how we apply pressure, here's how we move, deliberately, relentlessly, and without illusion. Tell us where to be, what to do and what to bring.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
All right, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. It's January 26, 2026. Lots going on in Minneapolis. That's where we are going to start this morning. I'm Andrew Kolvet, executive producer of this show. Blake Neff here in studio and in sunny Phoenix. I was under the impression that Minneapolis was going to be much more reserved over the weekend because of the chill, but it turns out there was no chill.
That was not.
There was zero chill in Minneapolis, and of course, we are talking about another protester that was shot by DHS officers. Lots of details in this. We have people slowing down the footage, playing it back, looking at. Now, listen, this gentleman, Pretty, was armed. He was resisting arrest. I'm not here to defend all of the actions, but I will tell you this. I am sick and tired of liberal protesters acting like kamikaze agents and, going right into the middle of an ICE operation, which is law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and not respecting authority. This is why I think you're missing the point. If you're arguing about whether or not he was pulling for his gun, if he wasn't, you are missing the point. The point is, when you get pulled over and you have a weapon in your car, what you're supposed to do, the first thing you're supposed to do, is you're supposed to turn the car off, put your hands on the dash, roll down your window, and then you say, "Officer, I have a weapon in the car." That's the first thing you do. It is a responsibility if you go into a crowd, if you are out in public and you are carrying a firearm, to let law enforcement know. The complete and utter lack of respect for law enforcement is what continually is causing these melees to happen in the open street. But there's so much to get to, Blake. So much. We could take this from about 18 different angles.
It's important because there's a lot of reaction to this, and we said this after the first incident, but it's worth repeating because it's even more important after the second one. A few people have said, "Oh, well, you actually don't have a right to bring a gun to a protest." You do have a right to bring a gun to protests in America, but let's also be clear, this was not just a march. It was not just people standing. People were getting in scuffles with these ICE officers. They're doing this friction, this low-level violence with them constantly. And that's what happened with this guy, where he's getting tackled by all these ICE officers. And we don't, as you said, we don't need to get into exactly how this occurred. It seems like it was an unintended tragedy. But the reason this is happening is because the strategy of the people who are opposed to ICE is to maximize the friction that is going on. Every time ICE goes anywhere, they're getting harassed at by people. They're getting screamed at by people. They have to worry, is someone here about to pull a gun and shoot us? Because People online are openly calling to do that. It's happened in Dallas. People have opened fire on ICE people. They've been rammed. They're all blowing on these whistles constantly, which is clearly not needed to actually warn anyone, which is what their claim is. It's actually just to constantly annoy and freak people out. I mean, you can watch the video. There's just these whistles going off endlessly. And they're creating a situation where everyone is maximally stressed out. They're maximally concerned something could go wrong. And something like this, whether it should happen or not, something like this happening is inevitable.
Completely. And
Completely
that's the point,
inevitable.
though.
And that is the point.
Yeah, this is a low-level insurgency. They're trying to avoid overtly kinetic engagements with these law enforcement officers, but this is organized, it's financed, and they are pushing everybody to the brink on purpose. And that's the key here, guys. This is all intentional. They are pushing for casualties. They maybe don't want to be it themselves. They maybe don't want, they want to go home to their loved ones or friends or whatever. I'm not saying that, but they fully understand that when you pressure and stress law enforcement and you do it repeatedly over the course of days and now weeks, something is going to happen. And now we've had 2 instances in Minneapolis, first with Renee Good and now with Preddy, where 2 Americans are dead. And guess what? We don't blink. This is not the time to get weak in the knees and blink, because that is exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want us to do. They want us to back down. And the message has to be clear. You don't throw a tantrum and get your way in America. We have laws, we have order, and we will enforce them. It doesn't matter if you're financed. Doesn't matter if you have 1,000 people on a Signal chat and you're harassing ICE agents and looking around. You have to remember, we as a conservative movement, we as Americans must build up immunities to these tactics. Why are they doing this? Because it has worked. Because Republicans buckle at the knees, because they blink. We must not blink this time. There's 10 to 20 million illegals that Joe Biden let into this country. We're cleaning up their mess. Now, I'm all for the president working with Tim Walz. He just put out a Truth Social saying that they've talked on the phone and they seem to be on the same wavelength. Good. We don't want an insurgent force in the state of Minneapolis. We do not want a radicalized population in George Floyd zone. We want the governors to do the right things. We want the mayors to do the right things. And what is the right thing? You are part of a republic. You are one state in 50. You must obey. You must collaborate with the federal law enforcement. That's the compact.
And that remains the biggest challenge of all of this, because we don't want Minneapolis boiling over into some bloodbath. But you can't just leave. You can't just say, we're going to turn down the temperature by pulling ICE out of Minneapolis, because once you've done that, you've established that actually rioters and insurgents have the ability to nullify federal law with the connivance of their local and state government. You just can't allow that. Once you do that, that's not even just embarrassing for the administration. That's catastrophic for the country. That's every other country in the world can go, wait, the United States doesn't even control its own interior. That is, the empire is falling apart.
Yes. If President Trump wants to call the Insurrection Act yesterday, I'm good with it. You have to squash this. This is a formalized, organized insurgent force. Now, they've got tactics.
That doesn't mean IEDs.
No.
It does mean a systematic attempt to
bring the peace.
To prevent a systematic attempt is being launched by people who are not the government to dissolve the power of the federal government in Minneapolis.
Well, this is an insurgent force, and you need counterinsurgency tactics. And I'm not saying, we're not saying blowing people up. We want everybody safe. That's the point. You do an Insurrection Act because you want everybody safe. Obviously, there are extremely unsafe situations happening in the streets of Minneapolis. You got these protesters going to these hotels, vandalizing them, breaking it. These videos that are going around of, you got a one DHS agent standing at a door armed, telling everybody to get back and stay back in the middle of the freezing cold in Minneapolis. That should not be a scene that you see in the streets of America. The police in Minneapolis being told to stand down, that should be criminal. Heads need to roll. Indictments need to come. There needs to be consequences for defying federal law enforcement. There needs to be consequences for inciting and whooping up crowds and having a bat signal out in the whole country, telling every Antifa member all over the country that Minneapolis is your Fallujah. That's not going to happen. That's not going to stand. And you do not get to where you want to go here if you bend the knee, if you blink, if you give in, if you tell them that their little tantrums are going to be successful. I'm looking at you, Governor Stitt, Lindsey Graham. We're not going to put up with that. Not here in the United States of America. We have law and order. We have rules. We are going to follow them. I'm just going to play this clip, though, because I'm so offended by it. 221, this is Governor Stitt.
President Trump closed the border, promised to get violent criminals out of our country, and I think everybody agrees with that. But now Americans are asking themselves, what is the end game? What is the solution? What's the goal right now? Is it to deport every single non-U.S. citizen? I don't think that's what Americans want.
No.
The goal is to deport every illegal immigrant.
Anybody who is here uninvited against our laws, yeah, they got to go, Governor Stitt. I don't like it when Republicans, by the way, run to CNN to go, like get reinvited to the cocktail party? Are you looking at the end of your term and you want to be an eat me last Republican? No, thank you. No. You got to hold the line here. That's the bottom line. We're holding the line. They want us to bend. They want us to blink. Do not blink. We'll be right back.
Half protection is not enough.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit RealAmericasVoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Of this world. I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up.
Call, scan, or go online to support TPUSA and receive your copy of Charlie's final book.
We even find out that you've got state representatives in these chats. You've got the lieutenant governor in this chat.
We should tee this up, I think, because what we are getting is big picture. You're having an organized operation by the Democrats with their activist arm, with their state and local arms, and yes, with their national arm to abolish federal law and also kind of go back to abolishing the border, because the new demand, like what they're really pushing for after the shooting this past week, is that they need to have a total defunding of ICE and the Border Patrol. Well, okay, if you just defund them, we don't have a border anymore.
Yeah,
it's just gone. It's all back to the Biden era, and that's what they're demanding. So we should play this.
We had play what?
Well, we have clips of them demanding this. So, for example,
that's fine.
We have Adam Schiff, Democrat senator, clip 209.
If Democrats vote against this DHS funding measure, my question for you, Senator, are you prepared to vote against DHS funding if it means partially shutting down the government? Again, coming on the heels of an incredibly long shutdown.
Well, I'm not giving ICE or Border Patrol another dime.
How about Seth Moulton? This guy's a real peach. I mean, these guys are their whole tactic is to go throw a tantrum. They want you to bend the knee. Not going to happen. We do not blink. I'll say it again and again and again. I do not respond to terroristic threats. I do not respond to petty tantrums. You should not do that either. We should not do that as a movement. 202.
People are scared. People are really scared, and they're scared for good reason. And I would love to be on your show telling everybody it's going to be okay. Don't worry. This terror will not be coming home to you. But I can't say that because it is the explicit intent of this administration from Trump on down to terrorize blue cities across America.
So, I mean, and he just keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Walz had a line. He made the comparison to Anne Frank hiding in the attic against
it's
Nazis.
Direct incitement.
It is. They're whipping people up. And I would avoid using the word tantrum because it's so much more sinister. This is not babies complaining to get what they want. This is a real revolutionary agenda that they basically want to abolish the United States, because if the United States doesn't have a border, it's not a country. Anyone can come here. It's like a free zone. And they want to achieve that. They did achieve it under Biden. It was absolutely ruinous for the country. And the mere act of trying to undo all of the damage that Biden did, they have gone into an absolutely spectacular meltdown. They're trying to they're trying to kill police. They're trying to get cities destroyed. They're willing to do basically anything. They have doctors in Florida threatening to kill people who come in for surgery. And they're doing all of this because they want to abolish the country. This is a very revolutionary agenda.
Completely agree. Here's Senator Van Hollen. Remember, he was the one sipping margaritas with Maryland dad. 208.
The reality is that the real domestic terrorists, they're in the White House right now. They're people like Stephen Miller. They're people like Donald Trump. They're the ones who are terrorizing these communities, having nothing to do with public safety. People across the political spectrum are looking at what they're seeing on the videotape and listening to the lies coming out of the White House, and that they're agreeing with those of us who say we cannot continue to provide one dime to this lawless Trump operation.
You've got liberals all over TikTok saying it's time to die for the cause. Does that sound like business as usual?
They are whipping people up.
Does this sound like, this is just run-of-the-mill, peaceful protest, good trouble? No, this is why you have armed men going into the crowds and confronting and resisting arrest when DHS tries to subdue them. I'm not saying everything was perfect in that interaction. And what I'm saying is this is why you're having these interactions. This is why ICE is whipped up and scared and on guard and tense in the first place. We should play some of these videos. If you have a comment, Blake, please.
Well, they're constantly engineering things to make everything worse, to make things more violent. They're encouraging the de-arrest tactics. That's a big one where, anytime ICE is trying to detain someone, try to get in the way and fight with them. That is how you get stuff like what happened on Saturday or Friday, whatever day it was.
I mean, I literally have a clip sheet here. I have 7 clips here of libs on TikTok going, it's time to die for the cause, folks. 211.
If we don't have an ICE uniform on, we're not safe. Make sure you have your affairs in order. I'm going to work on getting mine in order because rights don't exist in this country anymore for us citizens.
The heck are you even talking about? All Preddy had to do was say, officer, Mr. Agent, Mr. Whatever, I have a weapon on me. It's legal. Here you go. Hands up. Hands where you can see them. Yeah, I'm here to protest. I don't want deportations, but I'm armed. Just want you to know that. And then it would have de-escalated the good old-fashioned way. 212. Got another one. 212.
I think I'm willing to die for this, but we lack a clear plan beyond basically complaining in all its forms. The good people in this country aren't asking for another peaceful protest that fizzles out by Monday. We're not asking for catchy slogans or edgy t-shirts. We're asking for direction. The largest force in this country is standing by, waiting for someone with a platform to say, here's how we organize, here's how we apply pressure, here's how we move, deliberately, relentlessly, and without illusion. Tell us where to be, what to do, and what to bring.
Go to 214. We could play these all day. 214.
Hey, so they're going to kill us anyway, so I think maybe we should just mob them. I mean, we have to do something. Like, we have to, as bystanders, mob them. Like, that, like, full American Revolution, like, hiding in trees.
That username on that account is Gen Existential Crisis, which it could just be a joke, but I think it gets at something. It's for a lot of these people, she seems mentally unwell. Mm-hmm. She's whipping herself up to cry while making a video for the camera. A lot of these people, they're taking their personal mental unwellness and they're projecting it into this revolution. And for some of them, they're dead serious, but some of them, a lot of the people driving this, it's an extremely exotic political LARP. They want to be in a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or their favorite, like a Les Miserables musical. And
yeah,
this is deadly serious
there's theater
stuff.
Kids that are trying to go toe-to-toe with law enforcement. And that's why this is always going to end poorly, because they don't know how to respect law enforcement. They fundamentally disrespect law enforcement, and they want a revolution. This must be quelled, and it must be quelled quickly. Cam Higbee joins us next.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Howdy, Rab fams. It's Warbringer here. Love you all. Rab is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. We appreciate you being here with us. A hearing in federal court in Minneapolis today could help settle whether Minnesota investigators will get access to evidence collected at the scene of Saturday's latest ICE-involved shooting in the Twin Cities. The agents involved claim that they fired defensively, after getting into an altercation with the 37-year-old man who was ultimately killed. Turns out the guy was carrying a concealed 9mm pistol, which he was licensed to have on him. Local and state police say the feds aren't allowing them into the crime scene and are running the investigation unilaterally. In the meantime, President Trump responded to the Minneapolis shooting on Truth Social on Sunday, writing in part, Democrats are putting illegal alien criminals over tax-paying, law-abiding citizens, and they have created dangerous circumstances for everyone involved. Tragically, 2 American citizens have lost their lives as a result of this Democrat-ensued chaos. His message went on to call on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Josh Fry, along with local and state law enforcement, to cooperate with federal agents and turn over illegal aliens. School closures, flight cancellations, and digging out from underneath this week's winter weather continues today for much of the country following this weekend's massive winter storm. Work is underway to restore power to hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses in the Southeast. President Trump has already approved emergency declarations for at least a dozen states. More ice and snow is in the forecast for today, by the way. Coupled with below freezing temperatures, it may be several days before the effects of this winter storm ease. We, of course, will continue to monitor all of that. And remember, you can always follow our sister station, Weather Nation, download their app, or you can go directly to Weather Nation for updates on how the weather is ultimately shaping up. We're going to continue also to cover the big story of the day, which, of course, is that deadly ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. Here's a headline from the New York Times, which reads, man killed by federal agents in Minneapolis was holding a phone, not a gun. We also have just learned that President Trump and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz just had a phone call about the very issue. We'll have an update for you throughout the day here on Real America's Voice.
Of generations is the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're about to be joined by Cam Higbee, who helped expose this big signal chat, which is a huge storyline of the weekend. But first, I'm going to tell you about one of our partners, and that's Strong Cell. So honored to have them back with us. One of Charlie's favorite supplements, and it was because it has a proprietary delivery system of an amazing enzyme that you need, NADH. And NADH is the power source for every cell in your body. Strong Cell, I'm telling you, I don't know what it was, but when Charlie would talk about this, people all over the country wanted to know about it. They would ask him questions. I saw it firsthand, and I've used it, and it's amazing. It will, if you have brain fog, if you have fatigue, lack of energy, constant illness, any of those things, you've got to try this because it very well could fix the problem for you. Right now, you can try completely risk-free. Their 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Completely risk-free. Visit strongcell.com today. Strongcell, CELL.com today. Use promo code Charlie at checkout to save 20%. That's strongcell.com. Don't forget to use the special promo code Charlie at checkout for 20% off. Amazing product. Amazing guys that run that company, and we're honored to have them back. So check it out. It's an amazing supplement. All right, Cam Higbee joins us now. Everybody, we're going to put up during this conversation how to support what he's doing. He's got a PayPal and a Venmo. He's doing guerrilla journalism right there on the streets in Minneapolis, putting himself hopefully not too much in harm's way, but very much so. Everything's crazy up there. Cam, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you got your hands on, you infiltrated, or tell us the backstory. How did you get a hold of this information, the Signal chat, and what did you find inside of it?
Yeah, I made a friend, and I can't say who it is, or I can't elaborate a lot there, but I managed to get in. I got a link to many of the Signal chats, specifically the rapid response groups that were being used to actively track down and hunt ICE and then stage intentional obstruction of their operations, oftentimes resulting in violence and sometimes death in the case of Mr. Preddy. And I also believe that Renee Nicole Good was a member of the Signal chats. And I don't have confirmation from anybody in the chats like we do with Alex Preddy. Members of the network have admitted that he was what they call an observer. I don't have that for Renee Nicole Good, but what I do know is that she was engaging in the exact same tactics that everybody else in the network was engaging in. And here's the other thing. When they are in the neighborhoods, when you are seeing them actively impede ICE or federal law enforcement operations in the neighborhoods, the only way you know to be there is through these networks. And I know that because before I was infiltrated, I drove around looking for ICE convoys and looking for protesters in the neighborhood during active federal operations, and I couldn't find any. But then I joined the Signal chats. I hunted them down like over and over and over again.
So, Cam, for people who haven't seen it, can you give a basic summary? What are the tactics they're describing? What's the whole process for how this unfolds for maybe a typical ICE convoy?
So, as soon as they see a vehicle that they believe is federal law enforcement, they will send the plates into these Signal rapid response groups. They have several occupations. There are people who are on motor patrol, so they're like in their cars and they're driving around looking for federal agents. There are stationary patrols, people in their cars sitting on corners. There are foot patrols, people walking around on foot, and then people stationary on foot as well. You'll see them on corners everywhere you go in Minneapolis. Those people are constantly just looking for plates. Then there are plate checkers, and that's indicated by an emoji of a dinner plate. That means that those are people who are probably home, checking plates and comparing them to their Airtable database. Okay, and then you have dispatchers who run a 24/7 call. It's active right now, who tell people what intersections to go to. They check the plates, they confirm it, and they tell people, go here. And then all of the patrols go to that location. And that's how they all end up there. And the goal is, of course, to impede federal law enforcement. That's their expressly stated goal. And that's exactly what they do. They obstruct, they de-arrest, and they aid and abet illegal immigrants. They help vulnerable communities, they call them. And that's pretty much the synopsis. The network was nuked after I exposed it, and they've already rebuilt it. I'd say it's probably about at half capacity of what it was before.
So they go there to obstruct. What are the tactics they're told to use for the purposes of obstruction when they're on site?
Stand in the way, block. A big one is honking your horn, blowing the whistles, follow the cars. So they'll follow the convoys everywhere. Like we were at one point, so Greg Bavino was driving around Southside Minneapolis in a convoy the other day. And I think it was a distraction convoy, but there was literally like 20 cars following this convoy, protesters honking their horns, blowing whistles. I mean, this convoy, if it was actually conducting operations, wouldn't have been able to get anything done. Due to the fact that there was such a volume of people following them with vehicles, which are weapons. So those are the tactics. And when we drive our car downtown, our car was marked in their database as confirmed ICE somehow. Don't know how. It's in the Airtable database. I've seen it. I have screenshots of it. And so we would pick up like 4 tails anytime we went to Southside Minneapolis. And I mean, it is like as soon as you enter Southside Minneapolis, you automatically have 3 people following you. Yeah. We would just right turn and a right turn and a right turn, go in a complete circle, and they're still following us.
Yeah, it shows just how widespread this network is. There's a guy who replied to your tweet that's got 20 million engagements, by the way. Congrats, Cam. It's great work. There's a guy named Eric Schwalm. I've checked him out. He's legit. It says, as a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counterinsurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate from the sympathetic populations, I've seen organized resistance up close, from Anbar to Helmand. The pattern is familiar: spotters, cutouts, dead drops, disciplined comms, role specialization, and a willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly. And that's the key. They are willing to absorb casualties by design. It's an information op. They want to win the hearts and minds of people to play victim when something goes wrong, when they cause it to go wrong. This is the whole game. This is the whole game. They're going to go put a bunch of kamikaze Karens, put their bodies on the line. That's why you see Joy Reid saying you need to put your white bodies on the line. They're going out in the streets in the middle of the freezing cold. Doesn't seem to matter. By the way, I do have a question just on this. It seemed like the cold had no effect on these people because we got Antifa streaming in from all across the country. Are you noticing that?
I will say at the federal building, there's a lot less people. And there was this big invisible walkout protest downtown Minneapolis. There's tons of people for that, tens of thousands. But that was just a walkout, so they only had to be out on the streets for a short period of time, which made the crowd look massive. I do think it is having some degree of effect on them. It's not having an effect on the patrols, though, because they get to sit in their cars. So you get to sit in your car all day, and then finally you find a convoy or an agent doing an operation. You get out for an hour, potentially get killed, and if you don't, you get back in your car and you're fine.
So I don't see this getting asked a lot. So they're doing all of these hindrance operations. Is ICE still making arrests? Are we able to see that happening? Are they striking out a lot? What's going on in that dimension?
It seems like it. I mean, when I watch the signal chats, they're talking about there was a live abduction over here at this time. So it seems like they're still arresting people, at least according to the intel from the protesters, which isn't always the most reliable thing ever. But it seems like they're under the impression that arrests are still being made regardless. I haven't received any indication that things have slowed down. It's definitely difficult for them to operate given what they have to face at these intersections. I think that clip was actually just after the Preddy shooting, which was like a war zone right there where it happened. And those people were all called there through these signal chats. I watched it happen when he was killed. I was still in all of the chats before the network got nuked. They didn't realize I'd leaked this right around the same time he got killed, and they hadn't, because he got killed, it was fog of war. They didn't realize I leaked it. So I was still watching it all.
Well, the organizational level of this, and some of the high profile people, you mentioned the guy that was killed, Preddy, he was in these signal chats. You've got the lieutenant governor, you've got some state reps. Who else do we know that is of note that was inside these signal chats?
Yeah, I don't have 100% confidence that the lieutenant governor is in the chats, just because I don't want to make a 100% certain claim without certainty. It seems like there might be some evidence indicating that she is. I know 0 Hour has done a lot of work on that specifically. I haven't had a lot of time to dive into it because I'm still on the ground. I go out every day still, and I get in the mix of these protests. I was out there in the tear gas yesterday. So all of my time is spent on Signal Gate and on the ground reporting. I just do info dumps, and I say, I recorded everything inside the signal chats. Here it all is. And then other people go and they find out the names of the people who were in the chats and stuff like that. They slow it down. I just haven't had the time to dive into specifically identifying people. I'm just making all of the information public and making sure that these are my signal chats.
So there's clearly a lot of people in these. They have pretty sophisticated resources when they're checking plates and all of that. Is there any evidence that they might have access to privileged information, like that they have someone in the police, someone in the federal government, in the state government, who's giving them information or access to certain programs that are not supposed to be available for civilian use?
I've heard this a lot. I haven't seen any evidence that that's the case. It's definitely possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, and I'm not saying it's not the case. I haven't specifically seen conclusive evidence that that's the case. They're definitely checking plates, but I do know that they have a system in place, and I haven't really had the opportunity to talk about this a lot. The system is that they will run a plate, and they have this Airtable database. And when you report a plate, you say, vehicle seen with agents in the front seat, agents exited the vehicle, seen at the Whipple Federal Building in the parking lot, seen an abduction or whatever. And that gives them, then the admins basically tag that with highly suspected ICE, confirmed ICE, possible or not ICE. And our vehicle was tagged as confirmed ICE, I think because we were like right behind the convoy one of the days. And they're like, I was actually listening to them live while they were tracking our car. They're like, Ford F-150 joins convoy, Ford F-150 joins convoy. And I'm like, we're just doing the same thing we're doing. So they're really, I mean, they're not that smart too, is the other thing. But I don't see any evidence that they have like a government plate checking software. It seems like it's all reporting at this time.
Cam, I want to make sure that we get everybody to your PayPal and Venmo. If you could put those up again. So the PayPal is dchigby@gmail.com, and your Venmo is Cameron-Higby. Cameron-Higby. Please support the work that Cam's doing out there. Please, everybody, you're watching Real America's Voice streaming. Please support Cam.
This is how reporting works now.
Yeah,
just have independent people.
It's the PayPal is actually DCB, just so people don't.
DCB. Thank you. Wrong. Thank you. DCB Higby. DCB Higby @gmail.com. Sorry about that, Cam. We're doing our best here. We'll put it up on the next segment. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Be right back.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Howdy, Rab fams. It's Warbringer here. Love you all. Rab is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
All right, welcome back. Show you some of these folks that are actually confirmed. I believe the sleuths on the internet, I should say, have confirmed that they're in these signal chats. I mean, and it's very telling, right? So 263, this is an anti-ICE signal group leader who's been coordinating ICE riots, identified as Amanda Kohler, paid protest organizer, Minnesota state senator candidate, and campaign strategist for Tim Walz. So that's a campaign strategist for Tim Walz, is working on paid protests, one of the organizers of this signal group. That's what an insurgency looks like in 2026. 264, this is Anita Smithson, candidate for Minnesota State Senate, avid anti-ICE watch dispatcher. So, again, this is the face of an insurgent. This is a radicalized population in the United States. 265. This is David Snyder, another gentleman who seems to have been involved in these signal chats. If any of this is incorrect, we'll correct the record. By the way, we're looking at this. This seems to be pretty well established, so we will correct the record if any of these people are improperly named. But I wanted to show these because I think you have this image, or maybe you're like me and you have this image in your head of what a radical looks like. What these...
We're used to the Portland mutants,
correct?
And those are just sort of the SEAL Team 6 of this. They're the ones who really will get in the thick of it. But the bedrock of so much of left-wing activism is people like that, and they're very important. And they're actually probably the greatest weapon the left has. Just a normie looking, very motivated, frankly, very moral in how they view the world. They're the kind
they have a moral framework.
Yeah, so they have a moral framework. They act according to their ideology. They are not nihilists. They are people. When Charlie would talk about women being norms enforcers, and that what goes on with a lot of liberal women is they're the kind of people who would be holding your church together 100 years ago. And they've kind of been given a bad moral framework to work with, and they've gone berserk. And that's what's going on here. These people have gotten raised in or seduced by a ideology that's steadily driven them insane. But they're still very committed. They're very organized. They're very effective. And they're able to get things done. And they're organizing a signal chat like that. That is something... we'll be frank, the right has a lot of difficulty with that. That's one of the reasons even Turning Point was so important, was just getting off the ground this level of multi-state, multi-institution organization that the left just comes to a lot more organically most of the time.
Well, and I think a part of that, you're talking about these norms and these rules, that these ideologies that they are very committed to. Mm-hmm. And we on the right, we want to build our business, build our family, build our church. They want to build their insurgency. They want to fight for those illegal immigrants and those child rapists with all their might.
And there's another factor too, which is just that for a long time, if you had if you had something on par with that signal chat on the right, one, it would get doxxed earlier, and the people in it would get in serious trouble and would lose their jobs and have bar complaints against them and all that. And I don't think you'll see the same thing with members of this signal chat.
I hope you're wrong. So I talk about building immunity. This is going to be a repeat theme. We're building immunity to the sob stories, I hope, and I think we're doing that. I think one of the key roles of this show, key roles of what Charlie did, certainly key roles of Turning Point, is helping build the backbone, build immunity to the old tactics. We can't be pushed around and we can't be pushed off the mark. When you let in 20 million people, 10 million people, whatever it was, Blake's 100% right. That is essentially a nullification of the United States. That means we don't have borders. We don't have sovereignty. So we can't let that stand. The rules have to be enforced. You come in here and you invade us, you got to go. That's the bottom line. There can be no moving off that mark.
More to the point, not even just if you come here illegally, you got to go. But if we are trying to arrest you, we have to be allowed to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And by the way, and if you're some lib that wants to keep all your fraudsters, by the way, I thought about this on the way to the office this morning. Remember how this started?
Tens of millions.
Nick Shirley.
Hundreds.
Well, yeah, that's the original starting point. Tens of millions, just decades, really, of ignoring our immigration laws. Decades of letting businesses hire foreigners illegally. But then you get Nick Shirley. He goes and he uncovers billions of dollars of fraud up in,
it's come up this weekend. Every place they've gone, it's like, oh, there's an address next door, and it has 3 daycares and a Medicaid services company all registered to this address.
Yeah.
That's happened repeatedly this past weekend. And by the way,
they're stealing your money. They're defrauding the U.S. taxpayer. Many of them are violent criminals, foreign gang members, drug dealers, human traffickers, child traffickers. Many have killed Americans. And I don't want to hear all this crap about illegal immigrants per capita kill less than ICE agents. Garbage. ICE agents are getting pressed right now. They're getting hunted and stalked in the streets, harassed, goaded, and they have a very difficult job. Not every decision they make is going to be super easy to defend every time. And this is why, because in a split second decision, when you're wrestling somebody who's resisting you, who's packing, who's armed, yeah, some decisions are going to be made that maybe in retrospect could have been made a different way. When you're about to get rammed by a car, something bad could happen. That's why my instinct, without fail, is always to be in defense of law enforcement. And yours should be that way, too, because they have a very difficult job.
I figure we should hit President Trump has
go ahead.
Spoken on Truth. This is about an hour ago. He says, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I'd be interested in hearing that call.
Yeah.
I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him and that we were looking to have any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, and New Orleans, and virtually every other place that we have touched. And even in Minnesota, crime is way down. But both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump. No, thank you for your attention.
Can I tell you why I like Tom Homan going there? Tom Homan is a tactician. So his background is actually less on the policy side, less on even the media side, although he's very good at doing media. I think he's very compelling. He's a tactician. He's an operator. This is a guy that received commendation from Barack Obama for all of his deportations. But this is a field general. This is who we need in the field, and not only for moral support, boosting morale for ICE agents there that are getting pressed upon at every turn. But Tom Homan is an absolute rock star stud. He's got a spine of steel. He will not be cowed. He will not be bent. And so I love having him there. He's also, I think, very reasonable when you talk to him. He can talk to people on the other side of the aisle. And I think my hope is we will see de-escalation. But one way we get there is we do not back down. You got to hand over your criminals. There's no other way. Hour 2 comes up next. Don't go anywhere.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Howdy, Rab fam. It's Warbringer here. Love you all. Rab is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere.
the Somali rocks. And coming soon to a state near you, new name fame too, the Somali rocks.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Women going through menopause often deal with the emotional challenges that come along with their bodies changing. However, the physical changes can be just as difficult. And that's where Energized Health may be able to help you out.
When I went through menopause, my whole body changed and went crazy, and I haven't been able to feel great. I used to feel sluggish all the time. I was like, oh, I just want to take a nap. I want to go to sleep. Now I'm always energized. Like the inches just disappeared and the clothes is falling off and I'm losing the weight and I feel fabulous. But no, I feel great. Thank you for this program. It's an amazing program and it's for life now.
John Jubilee from Energized Health is here to explain how you may be able to realize similar results as that lady there. John, good morning.
Morning, Terrence.
All right, so how do we start the process? How do we reverse menopause, if you will? Not that me as a guy that I would be dealing with it, but there are some women listening to us right now who would like to know the secret.
Well, I'll tell you what, interesting you say that, Terrence. We don't as men go through menopause, but as men, what can happen is our testosterone, it just tanks. So it starts dropping, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 points as we go through life. So I'll just give some hope to the men here on two fronts. So number one, for men, I just want to tell you, we just had another gentleman, 67 years old, last Tuesday. He got his checkup and his doctor said, oh, I didn't know you started testosterone therapy. He said, well, I didn't. He said, well, your testosterone is up 200 points. And he said, well, what did you do to get your testosterone up 200 points? He said, man, I'm doing this Energized Health protocol. So men, the man version of menopause is the low testosterone, where we lose all that. We lose our sex drive and our energy. Then for the ladies, of course, you got the night sweats going on when you're going through your menopause. You got night sweats. You got those hot flashes, which is like torture. And for the men, can I tell you, please encourage your wife during that. You know what? She has not been abducted by an alien. Those are real physiological things that are going through your wife. It's just you don't recognize her because they are so dramatic of what's happening. But take hope from what you saw from this woman. You know what, Terrence, I was part of a medical study with 130 women that I had. Every one of them got back their sex drive, got back their energy. They lost that weight that they couldn't lose. They lost their hot flashes. They got back their mojo. And their husband said, oh my gosh, haven't seen that woman for 20 years running around my house. Thank you, Energized Health.
You had me at, you know what, I won't even go there. I think you know where I would have gone. But let's talk about how reversible this is. How does one start this process of trying to reverse menopause or even low testosterone for the men?
Look, guys, it's so easy. It just starts with a phone call. You just have to take your first action step and talk to someone who has your answer. So when you have a problem, you need an answer. And so at Energized Health, we make it so easy. All you have to do is book a call. It's a no obligation call. It's totally free. You know, you just have to go on a website, hit your book a call, and then take your call. And when you're on that call, you're going to talk to someone. Everyone at Energized Health was a client first. Some of them are 20 and 30-year nurses that quit nursing after they had their personal health miracle through Energized Health. So all you have to do is reach out and make a call.
So you stand by this. You're saying that people can start your protocol and that they can begin the process, at very least begin the process of reversing their menopause or their low testosterone and getting their lives back on track to what they were 10, 15, 20 years ago.
We have helped thousands of women and men get back their full sex drive, their full healthy sex life, their full energy, their full mojo, and you can have it too if you'll do what they did.
All right, and folks, all you have to do is go to the website there at the bottom of your screen. You see it there, energizedhealth.com. Log on, get all the information that you need. And as you just heard John say, at least schedule your first call. It's free of charge. Get some more information. And if you decide you want to start the process, then you can go ahead and do it there. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Real America's Voice. We appreciate you being here with us for this news break. Now, let's get you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Charlie Kirk Show is underway. I'm excited about this next guest. He's a contrarian. He's a filmmaker. He's an author. He's a historian. We had him on when, I think in the campaign season quite a bit with Charlie ahead of 2024. And he had a way of looking at things that will make you think. And if you are prepared or willing to black pill right now, don't. Because there's actually things you need to be looking at that will give you hope, optimism, whether that's the midterms heading into 2028, about deportation. That's Larry Schweikert, the real Larry Schweikert. Again, he's an author, historian, PhD, New York Times #1 best-selling author, filmmaker, rock drummer, America's history teacher. Larry, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, don't forget the rock drummer part. That's really important. A study came out today showing that bison are returning to the Illinois prairie to drumming. I thought, okay, about time.
Bison?
I need to go. Yep, bison for the first time in 200
Where
years.
Are they coming
Wild bison?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably leaving Minnesota because it's so crazy. But
yeah, right. They're avoiding
I'm just thinking of driving. I don't want to. Man, hitting a bison would probably really.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes as well. You know, like I sort of bemoan the loss of the real West, the frontier, but then I think, I don't bemoan contending with grizzly bears and actual wolves and bison would not be.
I'm a German by heritage, so I feel that like deepness in my soul if you fly over like Europe and you see everything subdivided into little plots of like developed land. So we conquered the West. I like going to South Dakota and just seeing agriculture as far as the eye can see.
I'm a conservationist,
especially because it keeps libs from moving there.
Well, that's true. Open carry keeps libs from moving there too. Larry, I love the way your mind works. You and I spoke briefly on the phone last week. So, I mean, there's a lot of doomerism happening. There's a lot of black pilling, especially with, you look at Minneapolis. It's basically a war zone. You have a different way of seeing what's happening right now in the country. Give us your 30,000-foot view. Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What are you thinking? What are you seeing?
Well, I think a lot of concern is over the 2026 midterms, and I'm not concerned. Today, Eleanor Holmes Norton of D.C. announced her retirement. She is Democrat number 25 to do so. Now, last year, a whole bunch of Republicans announced their retirements, and I'm not sure Why? A lot of them were older, a lot of them were anti-Trumpers. And I said, just wait, the Democrats will catch up. And so far, the number is 30 R's and now 25 D's. And I think some of those R's have already been replaced or are being replaced, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I think when all the redistricting is done, the Republicans are going to have a 4 or 5 seat lock on the House because there are just not enough toss-up states to make a difference. The Republicans are already sitting at around 210 to 212 solid, safe seats. And so when you look at all the redistricting and so forth, you're probably already over 218. In terms of voter registration, this has been moving toward Republicans for almost 18 straight months, and Democrats have no answer for this. So they kept saying, well, wait till 2026 and the numbers start to come out. Well, we had Arizona's number. Arizona's first out of the gate for 2026, and guess what? Every single county in Arizona moved to the right, including Pima, which is lost almost 1 full % of its Democrat lead in the last year and a half. So these are staggering numbers. You can't find one state where Democrats are consistently putting up any winning numbers. They're all moving to Republicans to the point that in North Carolina, that state became a red state last month. It's astounding. It was Democrat plus 175,000 in 2024. Florida obviously is now off the charts. It's 1.4 million Republicans advantage. But every state where we can measure it is moving right. And I think that's a terrifying omen for Democrats. So you go up to Minnesota, and I've harped on this. I think Minnesota is ground zero for breaking the entire Democrat Party, the voter fraud, and the obviously the illegal immigration fraud up there. I think that its tentacles stretch to every other state, but particularly to California, which is the big enchilada. That'll be the one to be targeted after Minnesota falls. And nobody's given up. Nobody's backing down. I love to see it, despite all the hand-wringing rhinos and all the Democrats calling for a government shutdown. Nobody is backing up.
I see. This is why you need to always take a step back when everybody else is losing their minds. You got to stay competent, you got to stay confident, and you got to stay calm. You got to focus on these things, because this is what Turning Point Action is doing. So, there's all this hand-wringing. There's people that are freaking out about Minneapolis. You've got Governor Stitt. You've got Lady Graham. These people are blinking. They're bending the knee. Meanwhile, Turning Point Action is building a standing army of ballot chasers in what we're calling the Red Wall. New Hampshire, where we have an advantage, more conservatives than liberals. It's the independent vote that'll swing that state, but still, it's a really good sign that you have more registered Republicans, and we're going to keep doing that work. By the way, New Hampshire, Nevada, we're making gains in Nevada. Arizona, we're all over this state. We're making gains every single day. So while everybody else is losing their minds and they're getting weak in the knees, we're putting up wins. We're registering voters in all of these states. And then you talk about the redistricting. We've spent a lot of time on this. We're actually going to be primarying a lot of these state senators in Indiana that refused to play hardball now. And apparently they made some handshake deal, Larry, with Maryland. Now Maryland's going to redistrict anyways.
They lie. Of course they lie.
Suckers.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up Nevada and New Hampshire. These are two of the states that Seth Keshel and I follow a lot. New Hampshire has moved almost more than a half point redder than it was in 2024, November. Nevada has now flipped to a red state, not by a lot, by about 3,000, but it was 18,000 Democrat lead in 2024, and it was 88,000 in 2020. So everywhere you look, these numbers are marching steadily toward the Republicans. Now, you mentioned indies, and the independents, of course, are important everywhere, but One thing that I think these numbers are telling us is that people do not want to be associated in any way, shape, or form with the Democrat Party. It is as toxic as any party in American history has ever been. And it's a two-step process. They leave the Democrats in step one, and step two, they become Republicans. So I think we're in phenomenal shape as far as that goes.
Where do you, what's your vibe on the independents when it comes specifically to this topic of immigration? If anybody's going to get weak on it, if they're going to give in to the sob stories, I think the conservative base has developed antibodies and immunities from the same old tactics of the, the left-wing ink that gets spilled. Oh, this is terrible. Obama comes out with this statement talking about masked agents, and they're rightly upset, and we need to, our values are under assault more than ever before. Republicans don't hear that stuff. They look at that and they rightly are skeptical. They rightly push back. Independents, where are they at on immigration?
They are probably far more susceptible to these kinds of heartstring messages. But the good news is that independents are all over the map in terms of what is the most important issue to them, because usually it almost always comes down to the economy. And so if the economy, as it has already done, continues to pick up, you start to see more and more jobs, prices continue to fall, and by, say, midsummer, everything is looking really good in terms of the economy. Believe me, the number one issue for independents is not going to be immigration or what's happening in Minnesota. It's going to be, the economy's pretty good. I'm not going to mess that up.
Yeah.
So well, the good news about indies is they are not wedded to a single issue the way either the left or the right is.
Yeah, I think that's a smart analysis there, Larry. Got to hit a break. We'll be back with Larry Schweikert, historian, PhD, #1 New York Times bestselling author. We'll be right back.
You don't have to be the sharpest mechanic on the big screen to know this. Car breakdowns can wreck your wallet.
The last thing I remember is just the engine cut out.
A sensor came on, and then my timing belt went out of nowhere. Over $4,600.
My transmission failed. Almost $6,000.
Your next breakdown could be anytime, anywhere. Whether you've got...
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Howdy, Rad fans. It's Warbringer.
Protection from Endurance. Whether you put 10,000 or 100,000 miles a year on your car, if it's under 20 years old, Endurance has you covered. Plus, your plan includes 24/7 roadside assistance anywhere in the country.
So if your ride breaks down, Endurance has your back. They'll jump your battery, tow, deliver gas, change a flat, unlock your car, and more.
Call now and we'll upgrade you to a full year of Elite benefits free, a $2,000 value.
Endurance just gives me that peace of mind, so I do know that every time I'm on the road, I'm covered.
Remember, out of warranty doesn't mean out of options. Call Endurance and see how much you can save.
Right now, you can get $300 off any plan, plus a year of Elite benefits, a $2,000 value free, all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So who's gonna pay for your next breakdown? You or Endurance?
Call 1-866-971-0198 for a free quote. That's 1-866-971-0198.
Where Caroline Levitt is hosting her latest White House press briefing.
Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia, enabling these states to access critical federal resources to supplement their response efforts if needed. These declarations will help state-led efforts of turning power back on, clearing roads for emergency services, and keeping communities safe. The White House will continue to correspond directly with governors and local officials in the coming days, especially in those states that were harshly impacted by this storm. I would also like to address the chaotic scenes in Minnesota over the weekend. Nobody in the White House, including President Trump, wants to see people getting hurt or killed in America's streets. This includes Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and the many Americans who have been victimized at the hands of illegal alien criminals. Saturday's shooting remains under active investigation by Homeland Security Investigations and the FBI. The Customs and Border Protection is also conducting their own internal review. As President Trump said yesterday, the administration is reviewing everything with respect to the shooting, and we will let that investigation play out. But let's be clear about the circumstances which led to that moment on Saturday. This tragedy occurred as a result of a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. For weeks, Governor Walz and the Mayor Jacob Fry and other elected Democrats were spreading lies about federal law enforcement officers who are risking their lives daily to remove the worst criminal illegal aliens from our streets: murderers, rapists, pedophiles, human traffickers, and gang members. Governor Walz and Mayor Fry have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE, actively inhibiting efforts to arrest violent criminals. They have also used their platforms to encourage left-wing agitators to stalk, record, confront, and obstruct federal officers who are just trying to lawfully perform their duties, which has created dangerous situations threatening both these officers and the general public and Minnesotans alike. This is precisely what unfolded in Minneapolis on Saturday morning. Obstructing federal law enforcement and inciting violence against officers is wrong and illegal. This used to be a universally accepted position in the United States. Amid the hysteria, we must remember how we got here to this moment today and what this Democrat opposition is about. Former President Joe Biden and the Democrats opened America's borders for 4 years, inviting tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to flood into our country. Among them, violent criminals who terrorized American communities and have inflicted devastating, permanent pain and harm on law-abiding Americans and their families. Yet we never saw outrage from Democrats or their allies in the liberal media over these horrifying crimes against U.S. citizens. The pain of American angel families was ignored and dismissed because it undermined the Democrat narrative. Innocent Americans like Jocelyn Nungray, Laken Riley, and Rachel Morin are just a few of the many victims savagely murdered by illegal alien criminals. Earlier this month, an illegal alien from Mexico with a long criminal history who came into our country under Joe Biden's administration threw a baseball-sized stone at a school bus carrying children in New Jersey and fractured the skull of an 8-year-old innocent child. President Trump promised accountability to these American families by securing the border, deporting every illegal alien who has committed crimes, especially and most importantly, violent crimes. Nearly 80 million Americans voted for him to deliver on that very promise, and he is. As the duly elected president, the president is fulfilling the will of the people by arresting and removing these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York and, yes, Minneapolis. us. Yet Democrat leaders in Minnesota with sanctuary city policies have actively defied federal immigration law and the will of the people. And as a result of that defiance, 2 Minnesotans have now tragically lost their lives on the streets of Tim Walz's state. It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number 1, Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. Number 2, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes, especially violent crimes. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures that I will add have already been implemented in nearly every single other state across the country, Customs and Border Patrol will not be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement can peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions. Additionally, President Trump is calling on the United States Congress to immediately pass legislation ending sanctuary cities once and for all. American cities should be safe sanctuaries for law-abiding citizens only, not for dangerous illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws and do not belong here. We hope Governor Walz will do the right thing and continue to work with President Trump to keep the American people safe following their call this morning. Americans overwhelmingly want exactly what President Trump is delivering: strong borders and strict immigration enforcement against the worst illegal aliens, of which there are still hundreds of thousands to deport from the interior of our country. The most peaceful way to carry out this vital public safety mission is for Republicans and Democrats to do it together, and for state and local law enforcement to work together with federal law enforcement. We want to let cops be cops. You wouldn't know this continues to be a very popular policy position from the biased media coverage over the course of the last few days, but polling shows huge support for this exact thing President Trump is calling for. More than 80% of Americans favor deporting illegal aliens convicted of violent crimes. A country unable to deport criminals who enter it illegally is no country at all. The open borders agenda of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and the Democrats was already on the ballot on November 5th, 2024, and it was resoundingly rejected. President Trump will never back down from his promise to deport violent criminal illegal aliens and make America safe again, and he welcomes all cooperation in that effort. With that, I will answer your questions. And Jordan Conradson, why don't you kick us off today? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. Jordan Conradson from Gateway Pundit. I have a few questions. First, with respect to the shooting in Minneapolis, we're seeing massive outrage from mainstream media and the left, but I'm just wondering, where was that outrage when Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was executed by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who she posed no threat to in the U.S. Capitol?
Well, you raised a very important point, which I also believed I just raised as well in those opening remarks, in that there has no doubt been selective outrage by the liberal biased media and picking and choosing victims and highlighting their stories. And as I've said, President Trump does not want any Americans to lose their lives in the streets of America and in American communities across the country. He believes what happened on Saturday is a tragedy, but every life is equal to President Trump, and that's why the lives of Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray continue to matter to him and be an utmost priority to him to this very day. And it's unfortunate that we did not see the same type of sensationalist media coverage over the tragic deaths of those innocent American women and girls across the country as we are in the wake of this tragedy that took place on Saturday. Gabe. Sure, go ahead.
I want to get your response to this. The Arizona Attorney General, just days before this shooting in Minneapolis, she seemingly encouraged rioters to go out and shoot and kill ICE agents. And I'll quote her here. She said, "If you reasonably believe your life's in danger and you're in the house or in your car or on your property, you can defend yourself with lethal force." And she said that you can't tell if ICE agents are law enforcement or imposters, and it becomes an issue of whether you reasonably believed they were law enforcement. Do you have a response to that, and does the White House believe that she should be held accountable for these remarks?
Such dangerous rhetoric, as I pointed out, is exactly what has brought us to this position today, where you have elected Democrat officials across the country who are encouraging left-wing agitators and crazy people to go out and unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement. Again, these brave men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and the federal enforcement are just trying to do their jobs to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to go after the worst of the worst in this country. I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage the Arizona Attorney General to look at the video of an ICE agent in Minneapolis. He was approached by left-wing agitators who were honking their horns and were screaming slurs at him, and he rolled down his window and he said, "What are you doing? I am out here trying to catch a child predator, somebody who has convicted crimes against an innocent child, and you are trying to obstruct me from doing my job." This rhetoric against ICE, comparing them to Nazi Gestapo, Donald Trump's police force, is despicable, it is shameful, and it is precisely what has led to the escalation of tensions in Minneapolis and in other places across the country. Gabe, go ahead.
Be looking into her for justifying violence?
I would defer you to the Department of Justice on that.
Thank you, Caroline.
Gabe.
Regarding Minnesota, on Saturday, the Department of Homeland Security posted that Preddy looks like he wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Stephen Miller on Saturday posted that, or called Preddy a would-be assassin. Why did administration officials jump to conclusions before an investigation had even been conducted?
Well, look, this has obviously been a very fluid and fast-moving situation throughout the weekend. As for President Trump, whom I speak for, he has said that he wants to let the investigation continue and let the facts lead in this case.
Well, with regards to the deployment of Tom Homan to Minneapolis, should the deployment of Mr. Homan to Minneapolis be seen as a sign that the president is dissatisfied with how the officials on the ground had handled the incident?
No. Mr. Homan is doing an exceptional job, and he has been working with Secretary Noem and President Trump over the course of the last year. Secretary Noem still has the utmost confidence and trust of the President of the United States, and she's continuing to oversee the entire Department of Homeland Security and all of the immigration enforcement that's taking place across the whole entire country. Of course, Secretary Noem is also in charge of FEMA, and we are in the wake of a brutal winter storm where hundreds of thousands of Americans have been impacted by that. So Borders Czar Homan is in a unique position to drop everything and go to Minnesota to continue having these productive conversations with state and local officials. And I know that he's catching a plane in just a few hours to do just that at the request of the president. Jennifer.
On Saturday's shooting, has the president been briefed, and have you been briefed on specific details of the shooting? How many shots were fired? How many guns discharged? And I mean, did the protesters' gun go off, or only the officers' guns? Do you have any of those details?
Again, the investigation is continuing, Jennifer, and we will let the facts lead, and we will let the facts play out in this investigation. I do know that HSI and FBI are conducting interviews with those that were involved and the agents who were involved in this unfortunate tragedy on Saturday.
Are they keeping the president up to date on all those details?
The president is obviously very much on the ball with respect to this investigation. I think he's made that quite clear with the various statements that you've seen him put out, and also the 4 points that the president has outlined as well to Governor Walz, and to encourage him to cooperate with ICE and with the administration. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline.
To follow on Gabe's question, Secretary Noem said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts in the investigation lead itself.
Was he alarmed to hear his top officials referring to him in that way, rushing to that judgment?
Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. On Stephen Miller's comments, will Stephen Miller be apologising to the family of Alex Preddy for calling him, quote, an assassin who tried to murder federal agents, despite the fact that, as you say, this is still under investigation?
Look, again, this incident remains under investigation, and nobody here at the White House, including the President of the United States, wants to see Americans hurt or killed and losing their lives in American streets. And we mourn for the parents. As a mother myself, of course, I cannot imagine the loss of life, especially losing one's child. And that same empathy from the president goes for the parents of angel families, and parents of victims of illegal alien crime across our country as well. And that's exactly why the president continues to be wholeheartedly committed to deporting the worst of the worst criminals from our country. Why don't we go to the back? Kelly.
Does the president believe that the killing, though, was a mistake? Has he expressed that at all?
Again, the president has said, we have to review it, and this investigation needs to continue, and he's letting the facts on the investigation lead itself.
Does he want the body camera footage to be released to the public? Now,
that's not something I've heard the president commit to, so I won't do that from the podium. Sure.
Carrie, how serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state officials in Minnesota are actively coordinating with demonstrators through encrypted or non-encrypted communications, as well as providing government resources to impede immigration enforcement operations?
I'm sorry, Carrie, could you repeat your question?
How serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state Minnesota officials are communicating with demonstrators to basically impede immigration officials?
Well, we've definitely seen active organization amongst these left-wing groups, Carrie, and it is something that I know the FBI and the Department of Justice are looking into. Again, it is illegal to unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement in this country, and these agitators are making it nearly impossible for ICE to do their jobs and for federal law enforcement to carry out the will of the American people to deport the worst of the worst. I would just encourage everyone to please imagine in this room, all of you come to the White House every day to report on the President of the United States and the administration. You come into this briefing room, you walk through the gates of the White House. Just imagine if there were left-wing agitators or agitators of any kind who were in your face, who were doxing you, who were harassing you, who were physically threatening you, who were biting off your fingers in the case of two Border Patrol agents we saw this past weekend in Minneapolis. That would make it very difficult for you to show up and do your job here at the White House every single day. That's what these officers in Minneapolis are facing. That's why the president is calling on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey for these three very simple and common sense points of cooperation so that ICE and local law enforcement can work together. Again, we are just asking for police to be police. And if you ask any law enforcement agent or official, they want to be able to work with their federal counterparts at the state and local level and vice versa.
Caroline. Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions. One is looking forward. The role of Mr. Homan. Is he being sent by the president to diffuse the situation that exists right now on the ground? Is he the point person essentially for the White House in terms of trying to tamp down the tensions that exist right now in Minnesota?
Well, Mr. Homan is the point person for cooperating with state and local authorities and corresponding with them, again, to achieve this level of cooperation to subdue the chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. And I would just point out that Mr. Homan is someone who has been lauded for many, many decades for his experience working in law enforcement. In fact, this is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
Secondly, Caroline, can you talk a little bit about tomorrow's trip by the president to Iowa, what the purpose of that trip is, what the goals of that trip are?
Sure, yes. Tomorrow, President Trump will be traveling to Des Moines, Iowa. He will be making a local visit at a local business, and then he will be giving a speech on affordability and on the economy. And I know he very much looks forward to being there, to meeting with the great people of Iowa, but also lawmakers as well. Jake.
Caroline, a couple quick questions. First, does the president remain fully confident in Kristi Noem's ability to lead the DHS?
Yes.
And then just secondly, just on that Wall Street Journal reporting that we saw yesterday, the president said at some point that the immigration enforcement officers would leave Minneapolis. Did the Saturday killing of Alex Pretty expedite that withdrawal at all?
To your first question, the answer is yes. He still has confidence and trust in Secretary Noem. To the second question, I would point you back to what I said earlier. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures, CBP will no longer be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement will peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions, to remove violent criminals from American neighborhoods across the country.
Did Walz ask the president to remove the immigration enforcement officers?
He asked the president to scale down, and the president reiterated what the president put out in his statement yesterday and what I'm sharing with all of you as well. I would just add on this level of cooperation a few statistics that I think are very important. 7 of the top 10 safest cities in the United States cooperate with ICE, and we've seen historic turnaround in safety in cities that have chosen to cooperate with ICE, that are not just led by Republicans, but also look right here in Washington, D.C. We had a great level of cooperation with Mayor Bowser and the local government, and we have been able to remove thousands of illegal aliens from the District of Columbia, where you all live, so you can thank President Trump for that. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. has plummeted as a result. There were no riots, there were no protests, nobody was tragically killed as a result of that level of cooperation between federal and local authorities. And again, that's all the president is asking for in Minnesota. It's totally common sense. Jared, go ahead.
Thank you. Caroline, in this process, you continue to describe the situation in Minneapolis as chaos. Was there any mistake made by Secretary Noem that led the president to send Mr. Holman there?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Did Secretary Noem make a mistake which led to...
If she made any mistake that could lead the president to send Mr. Holman to Minneapolis?
No, as I already mentioned, Mr. Holman has been working alongside Secretary Noem and for the president over the course of the last year. And again, he's uniquely positioned to hop on a flight to Minnesota today to continue this correspondence with state and local authorities, and that's what he's going to be doing. Fran.
Caroline, is it the White House's position that Americans have the right to show up to these ICE operations and film, document, or protest the law enforcement actions?
All Americans have a First Amendment constitutional right, of course, but Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede and obstruct lawful immigration enforcement operations. That is actually a crime, and it's something that we've seen taking place in the streets of Minneapolis, which again is leading to these dangerous circumstances that these federal law enforcement officers have been forced to work within.
Back to the call with Governor Walz this morning, the president described it as respectful. He said we seem to be on a similar wavelength, but you had strong criticism for the governor and the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, just now. So could you explain the difference in tone between what the president had said in his True Social post and I think some of the criticisms that you just levied from the podium?
Fran, I think the criticisms that I laid out, I'm painting the picture for all of you in this room, are what led to the moment that we are in today, where Governor Walz and President Trump are having a conversation, a constructive and productive conversation to end the chaos and the lawlessness that has taken place in Governor Walz's state. Elena.
Thank you. I had a question. With Holman now going to Minnesota, is Gregory Bovino also going to remain in Minnesota overseeing these ICE operations?
Mr. Bovino is a wonderful man, and he's a great professional. He is going to very much continue to lead Customs and Border Patrol throughout and across the country. Mr. Holman will be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis.
And to follow up, given what we've heard from several Trump administration officials, people like Stephen Miller, as people point out, calling him a domestic terrorist, Bovino saying that Preddy was out to massacre law enforcement, why not require ICE agents to wear body cameras to clear up some of the disputes that we are hearing from witnesses and video footage versus what the administration has been saying?
Well, that's a policy question that I know the policy folks in the building are having with members on Capitol Hill, and I'll leave it to them and the president to make that decision.
And my final question is on, you were talking about the level of cooperation that the president talked about with Governor Walz. Will the administration commit to cooperating with local officials on this investigation into Alex Preddy?
The president spoke about this with Governor Walz and said he would have a discussion about it. He did not make a commitment, and so therefore I won't make that commitment here. I would just remind all of you in the media, because I've seen a lack of reporting on this fact, there are investigations into what took place on Saturday. The Homeland Security investigations and the FBI have teamed up for an investigation, and there's also an internal CBP GOP investigation and internal review of what is happening on the ground in Minnesota. The president supports those investigations, and as I've said repeatedly, he wants to see them move forward. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline. FBI Director Kash Patel said in a Sunday interview, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest." Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain in effect even when protesting?
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens. Absolutely. There has been no greater supporter or defender of the right to bear arms than President Donald J. Trump. So while Americans have a constitutional right to bear arms, Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede lawful immigration enforcement operations. And any gun owner knows that when you are carrying a weapon, when you are bearing arms, and you are confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the assumption of risk and the risk of force being used against you. And again, that's unfortunately what took place on Saturday.
Caroline is in Minneapolis. Will his mission continue to be focusing on illegal immigrants with a criminal history, or will it be on illegal immigration generally?
Mr. Homan will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws, especially deporting the worst of the worst criminals in Minnesota who have committed violent offenses. And I would just remind all of you that this important work is continuing to be carried out. In just the last few days, I'm happy to provide this packet to anyone in the room. ICE has arrested multiple violent criminals, illegal aliens within Minnesota. Many of them have convictions for assault, driving under the influence, fraud. This individual here I'm looking at was an aggravated felon with multiple convictions for larceny, fraud, and forgery of checks, vehicle theft, drug possession, domestic assault, inflicting bodily harm on another, criminal convictions of larceny, identity theft, again, charged with driving under the influence. These are extremely dangerous people who Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have allowed to roam on their streets, and all the president is asking for is cooperation to arrest individuals like this and deport them from the United States of America. I'll take a couple more. Go ahead.
Okay, so this weekend the president posted that this is a cover-up of the fraud in the state of Minnesota. He also posted Minnesota is a cover-up. These both happened after the shooting. So given these came after the shooting, what is the this here? What is the cover-up he's alleging?
Yes, it's a good question. I've spoken with the president about this at length. What the president is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and, again, the mayor, who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who, again, are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread, massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend, with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves why and how is that possible? Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering. Haley.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to go back to some of the comments from Stephen Miller and Secretary No. You made clear the president wants to see the investigation play out when answering some of the questions on the specific details. Is he concerned that some of those definitive statements made by other officials risks public perception of the credibility of those investigations now playing out?
Again, the president believes that these investigations are credible, they are continuing, they are active, and he wants to let them play out. Alex.
Caroline, thank you. Is the administration willing to separate DHS funding from other funding bills in order to avoid a broader shutdown?
Look, at this point, the White House supports the bipartisan work that was done to advance the bipartisan appropriations package, and we want to see that passed. Policy discussions on immigration in Minnesota are happening. Look, the president is leading those discussions, as evidenced by his correspondence with Governor Walz this morning, but that should not be at the expense of government funding for the American people, which would include, as you know, Alex, FEMA funding, and we are in the midst of the storm that took place over the weekend, and many Americans are still being impacted by that. So we absolutely do not want to see that funding lapse, and we want the Senate to move forward with passing the bipartisan appropriations package that was negotiated on a bipartisan basis.
And secondly, there's another round of Russia-Ukraine talks this weekend, Sunday. If you can walk us through with the president, how he'll be involved in that, if at all. Will be talking to President Putin, President Zelensky ahead of those meetings?
I'm not tracking any scheduled calls at this point in time. However, the president remains deeply involved, and of course he's being apprised by his advisors, namely Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Witkoff, on these talks. They had a multilateral meeting this past weekend, which didn't get a ton of coverage, but that was historic in nature, where the president's team has really brought two sides of this war to the table together to move the ball closer towards peace. So the president is not giving up on the peace process. He obviously just met with President Zelensky when we were in Davos, Switzerland, but I'm not tracking any calls scheduled for this week. On one more foreign policy point, I will point out, as you all saw, the last remaining body of the hostages, Israeli hostages in Gaza, has been returned. This is a huge foreign policy feat for the President of the United States, for the State of Israel, and frankly for the whole world. The President made the impossible possible, and so it's great news for the President, for the United States, for our allies, and also for peace in the Middle East. And I understand that more than 20 new additional countries have also signed up to join the newly established Board of Peace with respect to the rebuilding of Gaza, which is another historic accomplishment for this president. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you in Iowa tomorrow.
Did the president talk to us?
That was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with the latest White House press briefing. A lot of the questions focused around the situation in Minneapolis as President Trump and Governor Tim Walz just spoke earlier today. But of course, the investigation continues into the deadly shooting of a civilian there, a 37-year-old man, at the hands of ICE agents. We'll have more on the press briefing as well as the news of the day throughout the day here on Real America's Voice. But for now, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Respect. I'm not a political analyst or a political reporter. I'm an American analyst or American reporter. And I think to just relentlessly focus on the midterms, again, I say with respect, is not the right thing for the country, even in an election year. The president's job is to do well in the midterms by doing good things for the American people. Same with Congress, same with Governor Walz. So the focus should not be, I think, on sort of the tactics and the fundraising, at least not yet. This is hurting the president's poll numbers, and it's hurting the brand of the Republican Party, and it's hurting MAGA because people don't like what they're seeing. And they don't like what they're seeing because it rubs up against their sense of what American government should be, what America should be. People don't want to see government officials telling bald-faced lies that are contradicted by what they can see with their own eyes. They don't want to see American citizens shot on the street by government officials. And they don't want to see an enforcement operation that creates chaos when the whole point of this is to create more order and less chaos. Okay, so those are all things that I think the president can be behind and before and help him in the party politically by working on them. If he does that, if he gets the focus on the extraordinary achievement of shutting down the border and the achievement of going into these cities with federal officials and taking out the bad hombres, taking out the people who are dangerous to the community, and then deporting others as bandwidth allows, then I think one of the great promises made, promises kept will be the focus of a lot of voters in the midterms. This is not just Democrats, and this is not just moderate Democrats. I talked to Republicans for the last 72 hours, including some major supporters of the president who don't want to see this continue the way it's been going. Again, they support the president's immigration agenda. They just don't want to see this. And I think if the president can work that out to emphasize the parts of this that have worked and can continue to work and mitigate the prospect of American citizens being shot by federal officers, I think that people will give him and the party credit for making a mid-course correction.
So, Mark, there's obviously, despite your advice, there is a lot of fixation on the midterms. And there's definitely on the right, I've seen this sort of all or nothing attitude that if the midterms are bad, it's all over for the administration or something. But it strikes me, as you noted, they already funded ICE, for example, for a long time with the big, beautiful bill. The president has obviously a lot of power to do things, even if he doesn't control Congress. How much do you think it actually matters for President Trump's agenda that he control Congress? And what do you think is likely to happen if he loses it? Are we actually likely to see, for example, the impeachment every week that some people have talked about? And if they do impeach Trump every week, does that actually matter?
Well, it's not just impeach him, right? It's investigate him. Mm-hmm. There's 100 things they'd like to have subpoena power to investigate and to call members of the administration up to Capitol Hill to testify. All those things are not just a distraction and a bandwidth suck, but they can create a lot of news because the media would love to see a 14-day investigation into the Trump family's crypto holdings or an investigation into policy making around ICE. So it matters for that. It also matters if the president wants to pass anything. The president can do a lot by executive action, but there's some things like the budget that Congress has to do. And I'm a big believer that if the president does lose the House, he can turn that into a virtue by starting to pass some things in a bipartisan way that the current balance of power wouldn't let him do. Now, that won't be popular with everyone in MAGA because it will mean the president making deal with Hakeem Jeffries. But the alternative is perhaps getting nothing done because they don't have 60 votes in the Senate. I think that right now the president's chances of keeping the House are underrated. It's not the most likely outcome, but it's underrated. And the Senate is still better than even to stay Republican. So he needs to, again, the best thing he can do to make sure that he's got the best possible chance to keep the majority is to do things the American people like, to do things that are popular, and to let Republicans talk about those things. And if he does that, it won't take care of itself, but it will be the biggest down payment he could make on success in the midterms.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Mark. I'm willing to concede the fact. Something we've talked about on this show is that the whole masking of ICE agents, it strikes, I guess, the majority of Americans as un-American. But they are getting doxxed, and we do have the sanctuary city issues where they're not, willing to cooperate, like they did with Obama, like they did with Clinton. Yeah. And it's TDS on the local level. I mean, if there is some sort of detente that's possible where they actually, LA, Portland, Minneapolis, New York are willing to say, hey, smaller footprint, but we'll cooperate at the local level. We'll hand over detention requests of illegals. I think that would be a huge win for the country. And by the way, it would be safer for agents and cities and illegals. If you care about the immigrants, it would be safer.
I agree. I totally agree. You need rational policies. And, we haven't talked about this. You guys may have talked about it earlier in the show. I was doing other stuff, so I wasn't able to listen. To be so twisted to have every administration official out on Sunday saying, if you show up with a gun, you're a threat. That is a twisting of the Second Amendment. It's a twisting of the MAGA attitude towards the Second Amendment. And so you've got to get policies that you can defend, and they can defend the mission here. They can defend what they want to do with deportations. They can't defend saying a guy who shows up with a gun is a threat automatically. They can't defend claiming the guy's a domestic terrorist without any evidence. I agree. And that's why you're seeing Tom Homans, who says, let's have an investigation, go in. Tom Homans isn't going to say, I'm quite sure anyone who shows up with a gun is a threat.
No, I think we bungled the messaging right at the jump. Yeah. I think that's fair, and we can do better, and we will. Mark Halperin, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
See you guys tomorrow.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
RAV has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just